Hey everyone! On this channel, I use AI to break down complicated topics, like politics, without any bias or emotions. Now, if you ask people why they support Donald Trump, a common answer is the economy. Many believe he'll strengthen the US economy over the next 4 years and improve life for American families. But the big question is, will he actually do that? Well, that's what we're figuring out today. I'll be using ChatGPT to predict how the economy might look under Trump, analyze his tariffs and their impact on everyday Americans, create its own plan for economic improvement, and even draft a personal message for Trump about whether he's on the right path. Sound interesting? Then stick around, because we're getting into all of that in just a second. But before we dive in, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a new video. It helps a ton, and I truly appreciate it. Alright, let's kick things off by giving ChatGPT a clear task for today. We're asking it to focus strictly on the US economy under Trump's leadership. No extra fluff, just the facts. We need answers that are short, sharp, and centered around the most recent events. Let's dive in and ask ChatGPT to explain the current economic plans under Trump's administration. Trump's current economic plans focus on aggressive tax cuts, including lowering the corporate tax rate to 15% and implementing significant tariffs on imports, aiming to boost domestic production. He also proposes substantial federal spending cuts, targeting programs like healthcare and food assistance to reduce the national debt. In my view, these policies could lead to short-term economic growth due to increased corporate profits and initial boosts in domestic manufacturing. However, the combination of reduced federal spending on social programs and potential trade wars from high tariffs may result in long-term economic instability, increased income inequality, and a higher cost of living for many Americans. So, Trump is once again doubling down on tax cuts and strict tariffs. Big corporations might be celebrating, but what about everyday Americans? Cuts to social programs could hit the most vulnerable, and trade wars might send prices soaring. Is this a short-term win or a long-term crisis? Only time will tell. Next up, let's ask ChatGPT to break down Trump's plan for tariffs. We'll tell it up front that we already have a basic understanding, but we want to know exactly how this system will work under his leadership. Who's going to bear the costs, and what's the mechanism behind it? We want the details, but keep it short and straight to the point. President Trump's current tariff strategy involves imposing additional taxes on imported goods to protect domestic industries and address trade imbalances. Here's a detailed breakdown. Tariff structure and implementation. General tariffs. A 25% tariff is applied to most imports from Canada and Mexico, with a 10% tariff on imports from China. Energy imports. Energy resources from Canada, such as oil and natural gas, face a reduced 10% tariff to minimize disruptions. Sector-specific tariffs. Additional tariffs of 25% or more are planned for specific sectors, including automobiles, semiconductors, and pharmaceuticals. Mechanics and cost distribution. Import process. When goods enter the U.S., importers are required to pay the imposed tariffs to U.S. Customs. Cost pass-through. Importers often pass these additional costs onto consumers through higher retail prices. Studies have shown that tariffs can lead to increased prices for American consumers. Supply chain adjustments. Businesses may seek alternative suppliers or adjust their supply chains to mitigate tariff impacts, potentially leading to increased operational costs. Economic implications. Domestic industry protection. Tariffs aim to make imported goods more expensive, encouraging consumers to buy domestic products, which can benefit local industries. Retaliatory measures. Trading partners may impose their own tariffs on U.S. exports, potentially harming American businesses that rely on international markets. Market volatility. The uncertainty and increased costs associated with tariffs can lead to market instability, as evidenced by recent fluctuations in financial markets. In summary, while President Trump's tariff policies are designed to protect domestic industries and address trade deficits, They also introduce complexities that can lead to higher consumer prices, supply chain adjustments, and potential trade disputes. Trump is betting on tariffs to protect the domestic market, but it's already leading to higher prices for consumers and a shakeup in supply chains. Businesses are scrambling to adapt, while trade partners are gearing up to retaliate. The consequences of these decisions won't take long to show. Economic pressure is on the rise. Now, let's dive into one of Trump's recent tweets on this topic. He mentioned that he would impose 100% tariffs on imports from BRICS nations if they try to introduce a new currency or push alternatives to the US dollar. Let's bring this up to ChatGPT, ask for its take, and see what it thinks about this bold move. How does ChatGPT predict this will play out? Will it be effective, or does it seem risky? President Trump's threat to impose 100% tariffs on imports from BRICS nations if they introduce a new currency or promote alternatives to the US dollar is a high-stakes move. While it aims to deter these countries from challenging the dollar's dominance, such aggressive tariffs could backfire. Implementing these tariffs might strain diplomatic relations, disrupt global trade, and potentially harm the US economy by increasing costs for American consumers and businesses. Moreover, it could push BRICS nations closer together, accelerating their efforts to find alternatives to the dollar, thereby undermining the very goal the tariffs seek to achieve. In my view, this approach is more risky than effective. It looks like a bold move to defend the dollar, but honestly, things might not go according to plan. International relations are getting tense, prices are rising, and BRICS seems more determined than ever to find ways around the dollar. How will this policy play out? Doesn't seem like anything good for the US in the long run. Finally, let's tackle the most important question when it comes to the US economy. We'll ask ChatGPT for a detailed prediction based on the current situation. What will happen to the country under Trump, and how will this impact the average American family? What's the deal with the financial situation? Will it improve or get worse? And of course, let's make sure it focuses only on the internal economic factors. Under Trump, the U.S. economy could experience both short-term growth and long-term challenges, with varying effects on the average American family. Short-term growth. Trump's policies, like aggressive tax cuts for corporations and businesses, could spur initial economic growth. By lowering the corporate tax rate, Trump aims to make the U.S. more business-friendly, encouraging companies to invest, expand, and potentially hire more workers. This could lead to increased job opportunities and higher wages in the short term, benefiting many families. Trade tariffs and costs. The imposition of tariffs, particularly on imports from China and other countries, would raise the cost of many goods. Consumers might face higher prices for electronics, clothing, and other imported products. For families, this could mean paying more at the store for everyday items. In addition, businesses that rely on global supply chains might pass on the higher cost to consumers, leading to inflation. So, while the economy might grow in certain sectors, the average American family could struggle with increased living expenses. Job market dynamics. The push to bring jobs back to the U.S. through protectionist policies might lead to more domestic manufacturing jobs. However, these jobs may not pay as well as the jobs lost in industries like tech or services. And many families could find that their new opportunities come with lower wages or fewer benefits. For families in rural areas or industrial regions, job recovery in sectors like steel or coal could be a boost, but these jobs aren't always sustainable in the long run. Debt and federal spending. Trump's approach to reducing the national debt through cuts to social programs like Medicare, Social Security, and welfare could affect many working-class families. While tax cuts for the wealthy and corporations might initially stimulate some economic activity, the lack of substantial social spending might hurt lower-income families who depend on these programs for healthcare and basic services. If those programs are reduced or reformed, it could lead to financial stress for many households. Long-term risks. The combination of tax cuts, increased government spending on defense, infrastructure, etc., and reduced social services might lead to a ballooning national debt. The long-term result could be slower economic growth as the U.S. government struggles to manage debt payments, potentially leading to higher taxes in the future. This could negatively affect the average family's financial security and overall prosperity. Conclusion: in the short term, some American families could see their financial situation improve, especially if they benefit from job growth and tax cuts. However, for most, the benefits may be offset by rising costs due to tariffs and inflation, and potential cuts to social services might create financial strain. In the long term, the economy might become less stable due to increasing national debt and the consequences of trade wars, leading to higher costs of living and economic uncertainty for the average American family. So, while there could be some short-term gains, the overall effect on family finances could lean toward worsening in the long run. Trump, as always, has his plans. Lower taxes for corporations, more jobs in the US, but tariffs? That's a whole different ballgame. Prices on goods will rise, and we'll be paying more for imports. Sure, jobs might come back, but the salaries? Not as great. And if social programs get cut, many families are going to face real struggles. In short, on one hand, you've got short-term benefits, but on the other, long-term instability. And of course, let's ask ChatGPT the ultimate question. What would it do if it were in Trump's shoes when it comes to the US economy? What goals would it set? And most importantly, how would it go about achieving them? If I were in Trump's position, I would focus on fostering long-term economic stability while addressing the needs of American families. My main goals would be to encourage sustainable growth, reduce inequality, and strengthen the middle class. First, I'd work on creating jobs by investing heavily in infrastructure, particularly in rural areas and older industrial regions, where job losses have been significant. This would involve modernizing roads, bridges, and energy systems, as well as building a stronger digital infrastructure to keep up with technological advances. I'd also ensure that workers receive the necessary training to adapt to new industries and technologies, giving them long-term job security. Second, I'd aim to balance the budget by focusing on wasteful spending in government programs without cutting essential services like healthcare or education. I'd look for areas to reduce inefficiency while making sure that social safety nets for low-income families are maintained and improved. Third, I'd foster innovation and small business growth by providing tax incentives for startups and expanding access to capital. Encouraging entrepreneurship would help diversify the economy and create more opportunities, especially in tech and clean energy sectors. For trade, I would seek to level the playing field without resorting to harmful tariffs that would burden consumers. I'd negotiate better deals for American businesses, focusing on fair trade that protects workers' rights and ensures that U.S. products are competitive globally. In terms of financial stability, I'd work on reforming the tax code to make it simpler and fairer, ensuring that the wealthiest contribute their fair share without stifling investment. At the same time, I'd look to invest in programs that support working families, like affordable childcare and healthcare, so people have more disposable income. By focusing on these priorities, I'd aim for steady growth, reducing national debt without cutting necessary services, and ensuring that average families have access to the opportunities and resources they need to thrive. I'm starting to think the US might have picked the wrong president, and honestly, the rise of the machines might not be such a bad thing. ChatGPT is actually making some solid points, and its plans definitely don't seem to have any personal gain behind them. Just a focus on improving life for the citizens. Let's give ChatGPT another chance to get creative. Ask it what advice it would give Trump regarding this whole situation. What would it say, and how would it back up its thoughts? Let's hear the reasoning behind its response. If I had the chance to send a personal message to Trump, I'd say, Mr. Trump, I respect your ambition to make America more competitive, but I believe the key to long-term success lies in focusing on sustainable growth that benefits all Americans. Rather than pushing for drastic cuts to social services or relying on tariffs that could harm consumers, I think investing in infrastructure, education, and clean energy would provide more stable, lasting economic benefits. Strengthening the middle class and supporting small businesses are crucial steps toward making sure all Americans share in the prosperity we're aiming for. Let's prioritize fairness and long-term stability over short-term gains. Honestly, this is a pretty thoughtful take. I think Trump might need to have a chat with ChatGPT and actually listen to some of its advice. It's offering up some solid solutions for the future. So, I can only conclude that ChatGPT has no political limits, and it gives clear answers, even if it means expressing a controversial opinion. And that's it for today. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell if you enjoyed this video. Wishing you all a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.